So it's really nice to almost see you, or more or less like feel you after the lunch. Today, as introduction already said, I will talk about the differences between the quality assurance and testers, and how do we actually define ourselves as a professionals. I think most of you have heard the conversations or thought about it yourselves, whether you are quality assurance or you are a tester. Is there any difference, or is there like only interchangeable terms and some of them sound better than the others? So it's time to introduce myself, and I'm Rasa Mazutiene. Currently I am Director of Testing in DevBridge, and this is a software development company with headquarters in Chicago. Currently, we have more than 300 software engineers, and more than 50 of them are highly skilled testers. And our people support our company's goal to turn business ideas into extraordinary digital products, and fast. We use Agile for that. I started my career as a tester or quality assurance, and there will be bits and pieces of my personal story, of my personal impressions, and I think that for some people their ears might turn red during my presentation as they will recognize their own words basically in my lips. I will start with a conversation that I had several years ago. We were talking with the developer, with the skilled developer, who was several years in the business back then. We are talking about the quality overall and the quality of code. And he said to me, you know, Rasa, I don't think that testing adds any value at all. Because when you have someone testing your code, you just, have to try harder just to cover your mistakes so nobody would find it. And he saw my face, as I was, what are you talking about? I am a tester, so just, why are you thinking like that? And he shared a story, a recent story back then, that he was working on the project, and it was a day or a night before release. I don't remember now, but basically it's the last minute when he found a critical-ish, let's say it like that, bug in his own code, but he wanted to go home on time. So what he did is basically covered the bug with leaves so it wouldn't be visible just while scratching the surface. And as I understand, they had testers, but they weren't too experienced ones, and they missed the bug. The outcome of it was that he was really happy about it, that yes, we shipped the code, I could go home, and nobody noticed the issue, even though the client noticed it like second day or something like that. It didn't bother him at all. And I was thinking, testing and quality assurance, like if you have such attitude in the team, is it actually possible to assure quality overall? Is it? So I'll explore this topic more in my presentation. It will be 3 parts of my speech. And the first bit would be the theoretical one, I will present the description or definition for testing and quality assurance, how we could understand it in order to understand the debate over testing and quality assurance better. Then I'm going to talk about the relationship for quality assurance, and testing, how do they interact with each other? And the final bit of my presentation would be about the titles. Do they actually matter? And how do they set certain expectations, or might be limit something while you have one title or another? Again, my personal story. I started almost more than 10 years ago, as a quality assurance analyst in a small team. It was my first job in IT, and I was really happy about it. And I come to the IT company, and I have the title Quality Assurance. Sounds good. It sounds important. I'm assuring quality. I'm supporting quality. So it's something. And actually, I loved the job. It was really interesting to work with the team, to identify the defects, to identify the gaps in the requirements, to work with the requirements in order they would be implemented as expected. It was something that drove me forward, but it was one little thing. When somebody asked me, like, what are you doing? What is your job? So I'm saying, I'm a quality assurance analyst. What does that mean? So what are you actually doing? I'm testing. Okay, that's fine. And I was thinking, but nobody understands my title. Okay, so what I do if I am saying that the title that is on the paper, basically, but nobody understands IT. The people who are not from IT 10 years ago, they didn't understand IT overall. So maybe it's fine. So I just left it as it was, and it was fine. Several years later, I gained more experience, and I changed the company. The title was more or less the same. It was also quality assurance, don't remember the last word. And, the responsibilities were slightly different. I got to work with the process overall, with the, basically setting up the testing practice overall in the team. And everything was fine, everything went smoothly. And one day, our head of department comes and says that, it's time for a change. We will switch from quality assurance to testing. What? Why? Because we do more than testing. And I will, just illustrate my feelings with the words. Well, who is coming? I was just mentioning you, basically. With a thought of my colleague, he was saying that, we are encouraged to look for the secrets that are lurking, somewhere down the corner, and we are encouraged to strengthen or to change the process overall, even if the team thinks that it's a set of rules and nobody wants to follow them. And now we're switching to testing. So why? It doesn't sound like testing. We do more than testing. It's not only just clicking and checking whether the requirement is true or false. It's something more about it. And the change did happen. We became testers. And the funny thing is that half of the team were really happy about the change, because they said that, the title change will reflect what we are actually doing. And the other half was thinking the same as I was. Like, the quality assurance sounds more important than testing, so why are we doing the change? That was a trigger for me to dig deeper into this topic and to understand better, what's actually the difference? Is it like the language barrier or something like that? Maybe we just have some misconception or something. What's happening there? And I said, hello Google, please help me. So quality assurance, testing, and I stumbled upon one more term, and it's quality assurance. Quality control. So now I have quality assurance, I have quality control, and I have testing. And I have to bind everything together somehow. And actually, quality control helped to understand the difference. And I will tell you why. All of those three terms came to software industry from the industrial companies. And they were defined in Software Quality Book of Knowledge in early 1980s. And there was a clear distinction between quality assurance and testing. So quality assurance was defined as the processes, tools, people that are focused on designing and implementing the process to prevent defects. So in other words, it's all about the process. It's about is about thinking about the process overall. The main tools that are used by quality assurance would be metrics, audits, and the example, should I post? Okay, so, and the example role in nowadays, what we could give as an example of quality assurance might be an agile coach or Kanban coach, or some organizations have a separate department like called PMO, and it's a product management organization. So it's everything around the process itself. It does not include the end result or the product. The part of the quality assurance would be quality control. So quality control is the processes, tools, and people who are focused on detecting defects. While the quality assurance in industrial countries sometimes is referred as quality police, and the quality control, on the other hand, might be referred as the end of the product line activity, or gatekeeping. The example of activities that might be supporting quality control is a set of activities. So it might be reviews, it might be inspections, it might be demos, and guess what else? Testing. Yep. So it's testing. And testing is about executing the system in order to find defects. Having in mind shift-left philosophy, which states that we should test as early as possible, or the emerging continuous testing idea, which is expanded all together with DevOps culture and Agile. So it's not only about executing the system itself. It's more about exercising each and every single delivery of each and single step of the software developer or development but the aim is still the same, is to identify or pinpoint the issues. It's crucial to test as early as possible, in order to prevent bigger faults at the end, but still, it's only identifying. So to summarize, quality assurance is all about the process. It's about being proactive and about preventing defects. Quality control is about the product. It's about being reactive, and it's aimed to find defects. And testing is one of the quality control activities. So now, as we see, that those terms are different and the meanings actually are different, these shouldn't be used interchangeably. And currently, what we could see in, for example, job ads, is it like the tester, or is it the QA? Is it QA analyst? Is it QA tester, or something like it? This is a mix and match. The responsibility set is almost the same, but basically we call the same thing with several different names without even thinking about it. And sometimes even in the same company we have situation when even the same person is called either tester or either quality assurance analyst or just QA. So this bit of the presentation is about linking the quality assurance and testing together. Is it enough, to do the testing in order to assure quality? Could we just, rely solely on testers in order to build the quality overall? I found quite an interesting idea by Bill Roske. It's about quality assurance and quality control. He says that the theory is that if you document the processes and make sure that everybody is following them, you can produce a consistent quality. Not necessarily good quality, but consistent. And the quality control, on the other hand, is more about measuring the defects and adjusting the process to eliminate adjusting the process so it would eliminate defects. And in that way, having those two together, you could improve your consistent quality. The question is whether having the consistent quality is enough. Sometimes we have to get it right, from the first time, from the first attempt. And, in order to get that, we need to understand what actually quality is and what it means for our client. And I will give you a non-software story, an example about French trains. Is there anyone aware about the new French trains being ordered several years ago? No, okay. So what happened there was that in 2014, French railroad operator SCNF ordered 2,000 trains so that their passengers would feel more comfortable while traveling, so the train would be more spacious. They needed some renovation. And so they collected the requirements, they gave it to manufacturer. The trains were built and delivered back to France, and they were shiny new. You can see it. Hopefully it's visible. It really looked great, and it fulfilled all the requirements that were set on the paper. But they were tiny bit too wide for 1,300 stations in whole France. It didn't fit, So, what happened back then was that someone forgot or decided not to measure the platforms that were built 50 years ago or more. So just an interesting fact that overall in France there are 8,400 stations and 1,300 could not accept the train. So you know, actually the script on the cartoon says that writing on the cartoon says that the delays are expected at the coming months because they had to widen the platforms. And it's a real story. Looking from the process perspective, if we look at it as a whole. So they had the process, they collected the requirements, they checked it, they shipped it, the trains were okay, so everything was fine. And actually, the testing did the trick because, the service was not released to live. There were no accidents or anything reported. They spotted it basically on time, but is it actually the correct time? Would it be possible to adjust the process slightly, to catch it a little bit early? Maybe just one tiny question would have helped. But okay, so what happened, we cannot turn back the time, and basically we have to move forward and learn from our mistakes. And guess what? 2015, the headlines, French trains are too tall for Italian tunnels. Consistency. Okay, so it was a consistency. So what I mean is that quality is not only about testing. It has to be built from the start, from the beginning, from the first thought about the product that you are building to the last second that the product is in live. We have to think about our client, about our end user, and try to build the system in the right way. And one activity, will it be testing, and as early as possible, it won't support it, because testing is more about like pointing what's wrong or what might be wrong. But if we are doing everything in, random fashion and we'll just in chaotic manner and just we'll ship at the end something, or the testers will test it and we'll have the quality assured, will it help? I seriously doubt it. I already mentioned that shift-left philosophy and continuous testing. I'm advocating for that because testing early as possible and having testers as early as possible is crucial thing, to the success of the product. Why? Because testers has the mindset that enables them to challenge the quality, to challenge various decisions. Technically minded testers might, persuade the team to automate some of the tests in order to do the automated checking and to have more time about exploring the overall system. Because a good tester actually knows that it's not about the quantity of bugs that you report or define or find actually. It's all about the time that you use to find it. The longer it takes, the better quality you have. And the better understanding of the system all of the team has. I really like this site from these words from Alan Page, who is talking about prevention. Doing activities early, testing activities early, it might lead to prevention of critical stuff at the end, basically. That's what we are aiming for. We are aiming for rapid delivery, and especially with DevOps, we are aiming for constant, basically, delivery for the end client. And it's crucial to have the right quality from the very first attempt. Sometimes when you have some certain expectations from the team, or you sometimes even if you wear the quality assurance title or actually have the quality in your title, you could get some questions like, could you please report less defects? You know, we are unable to fix them. The schedule is really tight. And would you please test what you are asked to test? You know, it's you know, the schedule is tight, and these bugs that you are logging, it's irrelevant. So my answer to these type of comments would be, you know, stop detecting and start preventing. If we are building quality from the start, it's not only about pinpointing. So now we established, you know, that there is a difference, but we still have that interchangeable titles like quality assurance, testing, and overall. Doesn't matter. Yes, I've heard, you know, that title doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything. But from my point of view, title sets expectations. People need to understand what you are actually doing. And I will present Martin Hinia experiment with changing job titles, only job titles, not the people, but the job titles for his testing team. It was really an interesting experiment, and the background for it was that his team wanted to get involved into development activities, into the product delivery as early as possible. They wanted to be at the discussions at the sales meetings, for example, or be involved into research and development projects. But they had a constant pushback. You know, you are testers, so test. What are you doing? Why are you, you know, in research and development? There's nothing there. What are you going to do there? There's nothing there. And so the experiment was about changing the testing title. First, they tried to do the technology research department. Sounds good. Then they moved to business analysis, and then they tried to move back to testing, but I'll say why the experiment was discontinued. And guess what? You know, the changes, each change, what it did was that the change opened some doors. They were invited into the meetings that they wanted to get invited. And the benefit was visible, the feedback around having someone from technology research department, also known as testing, basically, it gave that benefit that was lacking, that analysis, you know, that critical thinking, challenging all the solutions and asking the right questions at the right time. And sometimes the questions aren't comfortable at all, but still, they help. And while everything was, you know, testing was in the spotlight because the organization as a whole understood the value of having such people in their team. They decided that they want to switch back to testing because it's what they are actually doing. They didn't change anything from their responsibilities. They just wanted to be part of all the activities as early as possible. But the change didn't happen because the reorganization came. The company decided to move to Spotify model to have the multidiscipline teams. But as Martin Hinia says, the biggest outcome of his experiment was that when the discussions came to who or what set of skills are required in the team, in the development team, They were not talking about developers and having one or two testers as a whole and maybe some DevOps or something like that. They were talking about having a person or a role who is business-oriented and who could challenge the business processes, to test out the business processes. They were talking about the person or a role who could concentrate on exploring the product. And they were talking about the role who was more technically minded and could concentrate on delivering automated solutions to automate the checking overall, so it would enable the team to explore the system better. So that was the main outcome. And he says that before this experiment, it's unlikely that they would have had such discussions. So the title actually does matter. It sets some certain expectations about what you do, what you can do, and what you don't do. I'm not saying that all quality assurance should move to testing or testing to quality assurance or anything like that. What I'm saying is that think about what you are actually doing. Think about it and identify yourself. You know, if you are working with the processes, if you are overlooking the processes as a whole, probably you are in quality assurance business. If you are mostly about testing activities, about automated testing, about manual testing, about participating in all sorts of activities that would concentrate, on finding defects, hands-on approach, probably you are a tester, maybe test ninja, I don't know. If you are having bits and pieces of both, for example, you come into the team, you consult how you could help the team to build actual process and to have the built-in quality control activities or how to have that, built-in mindset, what they need, to achieve that the end result, the quality end result, and do some hands-on work. Maybe you are a quality consultant or test consultant, I don't know, but it's your choice, it's your choice to define what you are actually doing, so people would understand what you are doing, so you could wear your title proudly, and it wouldn't set false expectations, and wouldn't have comments like, I just write the code, I will compile it and do your quality stuff. It happens sometimes, hopefully not too often, but it happens. To finish up my presentation, once again, a bit of a conversation with my ex-colleague, and she said that, I'm so happy that finally I don't have quality in my title, in my name. Because finally, officially, the quality is team responsibility. I am not solely responsible for that. Thank you.